Ready. Play.
Iga Swiatek against Qinwen Zheng, which I think is a quarterfinal, isn't it? I should really know all this because they are playing at least on the same days. Yes, it is quarterfinal. So we've got Qinwen Zheng obviously beating Marta Kostyuk last night. I was quietly impressed with that performance. Again, it's a player who, is she back, is she not back? And I think the previous couple of rounds, because of the opponents that she was playing and a couple of other things, probably left one or two of us, or certainly myself, in doubt as to whether she's sort of coming back to either her best or close to it. But that result and that performance against Kostyuk, yes, Kostyuk did get a bit frustrated at times and probably threw in a few too many errors. Yes, she did quite well on Qinwen's second serve from memory as well, at least when she attacked it with verve. But there was a gap between the two players, and probably there should be a gap between these two players, and it came to the fore yesterday. So I am quietly impressed with Zheng, and there's another reason I was probably keen for a Zheng win is a wrong thing, but I just was more keen to see Qinwen Zheng come up against Iga Swiatek in a quarterfinal at Indian Wells than Marta Kostyuk to come up against Iga Swiatek at Indian Wells, having seen what Marta did in the semifinals last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I feel like the Qinwen Zheng image is a little bit blurry because of the tough start to her season. But
One
you
win
know, you
until Indian Wells, just one win.
exactly. So yeah, when I was watching last night, it's like kind of a Medvedev effect. It's like, okay, that effortless power is there. That backhand is firing. The serve looks, pretty good, fundamentally at least. And yeah, I mean, always tough to play Kostyuk. Like those conditions, it's going to be a physical battle. And as you mentioned, you could see Kostyuk visibly frustrated at multiple points throughout the match. So yeah, I think it's great to see her playing well again, and picking up the form. And this is, I think, the exact opponent you want in this circumstance. Got a few wins under your belt, and go for it here.
Yeah. Exact opponent. Yeah, maybe, but could be a couple of rounds later. Could be a different half of the draw, if you like. Then Qinwen gets lucky because Iga goes out somewhere. But listen, talking of Iga, I think even by her standards, I'm a little bit surprised. Even by all the things that are normally in favour here for Iga. We've spoken about the court change and everything else and how it's not really made much of a difference. The surface change, I should say. But to blow away for the cost of just 6 games, Caroline Garcia, Yastremska, and Karolina Mukova is kind of wild, right?
Right, right. And you say a couple of those names, and I was like, yeah, these conditions could be, good for those players, but it's just you come up against a different beast. Like,
I keep tipping her to have not go out. Ego, I've not tipped her to go out yet, but I keep tipping, this is going to be competitive. This is going to be, and as soon as she broke serve yesterday against Mukova, I was like, oh, okay, this could be, 2-2, 1-1. As it turned out, it was 1-1. And in fact, if you'd have said to me when she broke serve in the first game, if you'd have said to me, John, this is going to be a beatdown or it's going to be super competitive. Now, super competitive can be 7-6, 6-4, or it can be a 3-setter or whatever. I would have gone, no, this is going to be a beatdown.
yeah, I mean that's how it feels like very early because she breaks so early in every match, and then it feels like, all right, you're playing catch up, and good luck doing that. So
I changed my mind very quickly, actually, as well, with the Rybak and Mira Andreeva from first or second game. I think Mira got an early-ish break.
mhm.
Might have been the second. I'm not sure if it was the first or second time that Elena was serving. But it wasn't just that. It was just watching the match unfold. And I remember hearing you guys saying yesterday about, oh, this is a big point. It might have been Carson actually saying, oh, big point. And at no point, even when Elena gets that early break in the second set, I'm just thinking she absolutely has to hold here at one love, and she has to just cling on by the skin of her teeth and hopefully have a good set of serving to make it interesting. And yet that was very different to every single pre-match thought I had. It almost reminds me of a coach and I've heard this from a few coaches, but Roy Keane in particular springs to mind, where he'll sign a player, and from the second he arrives on the training pitch, he's like, oh my goodness, I've made a bit of a mistake here. I think it's a lot harder to pick out a gem than it is an error, if you like. But there we go. I've digressed a little bit, but it is relevant to the Iga feeling, because as soon as she gets these early breaks and just patterns of play as well, and Carolina just. I do think Carolina would have probably chosen a slightly different environment. I do think she might have been a little bit under the weather. I think Garcia is a different moment in her career to where she was 2 or 3 years ago. And Yastramska had a bad day at the office. So there are certain factors, but you can't, deny the facts of Iga in the quarterfinals, having barely broken sweat.
All right, and I just I think it's too hard of a surface to play catch up on, and not many WTA players can really do that, because I mean, you just highlight Sabalenka, like Rybakina, you need a serve to at least play off of, and yeah, like I said, just on these courts doesn't have enough of an effect to bother Iga as well. And then you look at Iga serving, like she's doing much better as well, and using the kick serve so well. It's perfect for these courts. So
Iga has won 6 and Qinwen has won 1. So on the face of it, it looks very dominant. It looks like, okay, this is, why should we be excited about this match? Well, I actually think that there has been, in the mix of that, there have been a couple at least, and maybe even more, of very interesting matches that could have gone, if not quite either way. Qinwen Zheng came to my attention in the biggest possible way in 2022 in the French Open, because she was the only person who could lay a glove on Iga at that tournament. And if it wasn't for being ill, so she wins the first set on a tiebreak. Very impressive. First person, I think, to take a set off Iga. In fact, maybe the only person in that run that Iga had to the title when she beat Coco in the final in 22. And not only that, as I say, she was sick and she won just 2 games over the next 2 sets. Now, I'm not here saying that if Qinwen had stayed healthy, she would have won that match. But I am saying that would have been, that could have been a Qinwen Iga clash to remind us of the most recent clash that we had, where Iga was pushed at Roland Garros like last year. It could have been a classic 3-setter like she had with Osaka, albeit the styles are obviously very different between Qinwen and Naomi. They also had a 3-setter in San Diego later on in 2022. That was I think Iga took the title, because I can still see pictures of her on that surfboard that they hand out there. The next few matches, there was Stuttgart, a comfortable win for Iga, a comfortable win at the United Cup in 24. I remember that one as well. And also in Dubai, but there was another 3-setter sandwiched in between that in Cincinnati. Keep up if you're struggling at the back, because now we're going to come to the most significant clash of all, I would argue. And that was the Olympic semi-final last year. And who won, Brenner?
Qinwen Zheng,
Yeah,
gets the gold in Paris.
indeed.
Yeah, I think she's a bit of an interesting character on the tour, just because she's a little bit more outspoken in terms of,
Yeah.
I don't want them to necessarily be my friends. I want them to be rivals. I want to be, competitive, and bring that sort of pedigree to a match. And she showed some resiliency in these matchups. I know we talked about too many blowouts, but taking a set off Iga on clay is probably the hardest thing to do in the sport. And she's done that 3 out of 6 times. And she was up 4-love in that second set, and it went back to 4-all. Huge to show resiliency. And I think she ended up breaking her at 5-all and then served her the match. So, she's capable. I do think it's such a tough.
Yeah.
Yes, in the Olympics. Sorry, but I think it's going to be a tough day to be Qinwen Zheng, because I think the hunger will definitely be a little bit more hyped up coming into tomorrow. Just knowing kind of what happened on that given day, and how much that meant to Iga. And so I think we'll see a little bit extra grit tomorrow.
Indeed, grit being an operative word, even if they have changed the surface in Indian Wells. Yeah, I think if there's 1 or 2 sort of twists and turns that could have gone Qinwen's way in some of those other matches I highlighted, there's one huge factor to mention in that Olympic semi-final, and that was that Iga seemed to be racked with nerves. And I don't see that being the same for a quarterfinal at a 1,000 that she's won twice before, 22 and 24. So Iga, as you and I both know, Brenna, is seeking her third title at Indian Wells. Is she going to do it? Or let's at least look at the immediate future. Is she going to beat Qinwen Zheng?
Yes, she is.
I feel similarly. I'm going to make the same potential mistake as I've made for the last round or two, which is to say she is going to beat Qinwen Zheng. It'll probably be in straight sets, but it'll be competitive. And I hope that Qinwen doesn't get broken in the first game. I mean, if Qinwen serves well, there's a chance, because Qinwen, she has that sort of slightly unorthodox service motion, but I think it sort of can work for her, particularly if she gets some high percentage first serves in. She's going to need it, and it'll give her a chance in points and to hold serve and to maybe even get to sort of 4-all in the first set, which is all I'm sort of looking for. I remember Maria Sakkari in that final last year just thinking, wow, it got to like 20 minutes. And I think it was a 4-all situation there, and thinking, well, at least we've had a match here for 20 minutes or so, because so many of Iga's encounters, especially at Indian Wells, feel like they're done after the first point has been struck. So I'm going to go for a straight sets win for Iga, but I am going to foolhardily perhaps repeat my error from before and say it's going to be a competitive 2-set win for Iga.
Yeah, I hope there's some match there. I think it's important for Iga. I mean, I'm curious. Like, as we talked about, like, she was so nervous for that gold medal match, but it's like she's just not often in these positions on these surfaces, let's say, or these locations as well. So
it reminds me of a couple of things regarding, first of all, I heard it said about Federer, and I've also thought about it myself regarding there was a Formula One world champion from a couple of decades ago. In fact, he won it 7 times. It was Michael Schumacher. And we associated both of these two sporting greats with coolness under pressure. And yes, it's true. I wouldn't say they were far from. Neither of them were chokers. Neither of them were bottlers. But both had their moments. And the thing was, Federer and Schumacher for so many years just never got pushed. So, I could be the most, probably not the most nervous guy in the world, Brenner, but I could be a very anxious person. But if I'm twice as good as my opponent, probably I'll still win, especially if I can get that early break and then just relax. But I can be a nervous player, especially when it gets tight. I can get very tight, but I'm never getting pushed that way. This is me living the life out of Roger Federer here. And yet, so it was an argument I heard against Federer, and I thought, yeah, that's an interesting one. That, the latter stages of his career, he did get pushed. But if you think about those early years, and we just saw Federer looking serene and looking cool and winning Wimbledon finals in straight sets, etc., and just going, oh, this guy is as cool as a cucumber. Well, it's easy to be cool as a cucumber when you're up 2 sets in a break, right?
exactly. I mean,
I
think
know there's the
about
finish line thing, and I get that. There is a pressure when you're up 2 sets in a break, but it's a better pressure than being 5th set tiebreak,
right. I mean, it's the pressure that Naomi Osaka felt in that first round
Yeah,
clash
I'm
this
not
past year.
dismissing it,
Yeah.
but it's just the lesser of 2 evils, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's one that comes to mind in terms of an Iga comeback slash, winning under pressure, and then the Madrid final versus Sabalenka. I think Sabalenka
That
had
one
a few
even
match
more.
points.
That
Yeah.
one even more. I just think against Naomi, when you're down a break in the 3rd set and you're still on your home turf, you're probably still thinking, I'm going to have chances here. Home turf, you know what I mean, with Roland Garros. But that one against, Arena, saving match points, and you're playing Sabalenka, who's the reigning champion, who beat you in this environment a year before. Yeah, that was a test of nerve for sure.
Right. So, to be determined if we get any tight scoreline pressure, but we shall see.
Fingers crossed, at least from the competitive point of view, it does get interesting for Iga from here on in, from the Qinwen clash, but also potential semi-final with Mira Andreeva. Andreeva, of course, has to win her quarterfinal still against Svitolina, I think it is, isn't it? And then who knows who might lie in wait in the final. Madison Keys, her conqueror in Australia. And of course, also potentially Arina Sabalenka, a previous finalist here. Brett, a big thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, John.
And for everyone else, you know the drill.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.